Hello there. I think we're live. Great. Welcome. So today's the day. It's the 12th of December. We're at 2:30. So yeah, it's time for the Handmade Cards webinar. I hope you're here with me live. If you're here live, do say hello and let your prompt. It's always nice to know who I'm talking to. So yeah, if you're here live, do let me know where you're watching from, and let's have a think about why we might want to make cards, because obviously, you could buy cards all over the place now, so that would be much easier. So what's even the point of making cards? And if you're watching live, or in the replay, it'd be lovely to hear from you. Let me know why you're attracted to making cards. Let's share some thoughts on that. And I think for me, it comes down to a couple of things. So I suppose it's a way of getting a design that you might not be able to get otherwise. So if you have a particular kind of style that you like, or you live in an area where it's not easy to get what you like, or it's too expensive to get what you like, then that's a good way of getting a better quality of card. So that's one option. And the other thing is that, I don't know about you, but I find the kind of run up to a festive season can be very busy and kind of hectic, and there's lots of chores, almost like shopping and all that kind of stuff. And I hate shopping. I don't know about you, but I hate shopping. I'd much rather do things myself. So making cards is a way of kind of reclaiming some of that time, that commercial time, to do something that I enjoy, that contributes to the festive season. So that's why I make cards. So yeah, do let me know why you do. Yeah, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about a whole bunch of different ways of making cards. I've got lots of examples to show you. So for years now, without really knowing why, I've been collecting cards. So I've got a huge stash. Some of them are like 20 years old. And I've also got copies of quite a lot of the ones that I've made. So I'm going to share those with you, give you lots of different ideas. What I'm not going to do is get into all the nitty gritty of the different techniques. So I'm not going to show you techniques here. I'm going to talk to you about ideas and how you choose and what's a good way of setting out. So if you see something that you like, you can always watch in the replay and stop it there and make some notes. And the internet's full of tutorials about technical stuff, about how to do the different techniques. So I'm sure you'll be able to track it down once you've chosen what you wanted. And I can't show you everything in the time we've got. So what I am going to do is show lots of different ideas, so just to get those ideas flowing. So if we haven't met before, I should say to start with, my name's Jane Saar. I'm a ceramicist and a sculptor normally, so you can see some of my sculptures behind in the studio here. And I'm the founder of the Get More Creative program, so I'm particularly interested in the creative process and how we can use that to develop our creativity, to develop our art skills, and to eventually make the art that expresses who we are. And making cards might seem like a funny part of that, but the way I see it, creativity is just a spectrum. There's no boundaries between what's craft and what's design and what's art. It's all creativity to me. Some of it is more developed than others, and it has different purposes, but it's all the same stuff. So I think any creative activity, helps to kind of boost your creative muscles, if you like. And if you're a little bit rusty, or you're just starting out, then something like this, that's a kind of neatly defined project, it has an idea, you know what kind of thing you're going to produce. It's not too technically complicated. It's a nice way of starting out. So that's why we're making cards. That's why I'm talking to you about making cards. So if you're here live, do say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. And yeah, if there's something particular about making cards that appeal to you, do pop that in the comments. It's always nice to know, as I say, who I'm talking to. So I would say, if you've decided to make cards, whether this is the first time or you do it every year, although probably if you do it every year, you don't need to be watching me, but if you are, anyway, welcome. Lovely to have you here with me. So I would say the first thing to do is to do a little survey of everything that you have. I don't know about you, but if you've got materials that you don't use regularly, they get pushed back to the backs of cupboards, or you might have some heavy card that you got for a project 3 years ago and it's been sitting, hidden away somewhere. Get it all out and see what you've got. That's the first thing, so that you know kind of what you've got to play with. Because one of the good things about creativity is that you can work within constraints. You know, it doesn't all have to be about going shopping and buying all the components. You can use whatever you've got. So, for example, with my own cards this year, I've got lots of very heavy black card that I bought for another technique, which I've ended up not really using. So that's going to be my base because I've got lots of it. And I've also got lots of white acrylic paint and printing ink. So I think mine's going to be a kind of black and white theme. So that's, you know, just looking at my materials, that tells me straight away that that's something that I can work with. So that's a good way to start, is to look at what you've got. And I would say the second question to ask yourself is, oh, I can see I've got comments coming in, but can I see where they are? Oh, yes. Hi, Anne, welcome. And Linda as well. Great. So lovely to have you with us. So the second question you want to ask yourself is how many cards you want to make, because this will have an impact on the kind of techniques that will be kind of suitable, if you like. If you're only making them for, you know, very close friends or family, if you only need a really small number, then perhaps you want to spend the time to hand paint each one and make them all distinct. Oh, great. Irina Maria's here from Romania. Fantastic. Lovely. So we're all over the world. So yeah, if you're making a small number, you can hand paint them all. If you're making a whole batch for like everybody that you know, then time becomes an issue, and you maybe don't want, I mean, maybe you still want to spend all that time hand painting. That's lovely if you do, but if you don't, I've got some ideas of quicker techniques. So I've got some examples here I can show you of some cards that I've made in the past. So this is the oldest, I think. So this was actually a potato print. You can see it's green ink and hand covered then with little gold marker. Similar idea, this one, if I can get it, you can see it's got some type on it, and that's a piece of green folded card. I got into a kind of tree and star theme, so that gives me another parameter so that I know my cards generally have trees and stars on, and I don't have to think about anything else. There's another example. So you can see that I use the same ideas, but in different formats every year. This is white acrylic on blue paint. I don't know if you can see, it's got glitter in it as well, just in the paint. So that's a simple idea. One year I had lots of handmade paper, so I did these kind of collaged, so it's just ripped paper to make a landscape, and then I think that was another potato print. I do like a potato print. And then last year I did something a bit different. So these were cyanotypes. So I used tree leaves, needles, whatever you call it, and seeds to make a kind of print, which was quite fun. If you do something like that, I would warn you that when you I just stuck this onto a heavier paper, and the liquid in the glue can affect the colouring. So test that first, or perhaps use some double-sided tape to keep it stuck safe. Right, so the next question you want to think about then is your card base. And if you've got card that you can use or heavy paper, then you can use that. Obviously, it saves you going to the shops. So I would say if you can think about formats, and you can think about ways to fold it. So if you've only quite a lighter paper, like a writing paper or a sugar paper, you can do a double fold. So this is a whole sheet of A4, just to show you the example. And then if you fold it in half and then in half again, that's quite rigid and it'll stand. It's better if you have the fold across the top. And obviously it can stand portrait or landscape. And similarly, you can do the same double fold into a tall, thin one that's, either way around. If you don't have any, you might like to treat yourself, have a little trip to an art shop if you've got one near you. And get a colour that you like. And my big tip, this is my biggest tip of the whole session, and I'm coming in early with it, is if you're going to make cards, buy the envelopes first. Envelopes don't seem exciting, and it seems kind of dull, who cares about envelopes? But if you make the cards and then they don't fit in the envelopes, then you have to adjust everything. That's a real pain. So I would suggest, and I just had a look through my stationery box, and I've got here, without even trying, standard, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, it might be too light, standard letter writing envelopes in 4 different sizes. And they're all slightly different. So, you can choose the envelope size that you like for what you want to do, or you can use, say, this is what I've got a whole stack of at home. I'm going to make sure my cards fit in those envelopes. If you're buying envelopes on purpose, you can, of course, you can get coloured ones, which are quite fun if you want to be a little bit more festive. But yeah, so that's envelopes and papers. So we've sort of looked at the kind of basic sizes, if you like, working from, in the UK we have A4, 5, 3, 2, 1 paper sizes, and this is all folded from those. In your country, paper sizes might be slightly different, but you'll have the same idea. So I don't know if you've got a sense of, which proportions you like. Do you like a tall, thin, or long, narrow, or do you like something a bit more of like a golden ratio kind of size? Do pop that in the comments. Let me know which way you're kind of leaning, because it all starts to build up an idea for the design. So that's paper and card and envelopes. And I'm just going to have a sip of water while you think about what kind of shape of card you like. So then we come on to what might seem like the main idea. What is the theme? What you're going to put on your card? And obviously that will depend on what festival you're celebrating. Here in the UK, we're running up to Christmas, but also midwinter and New Year's. So different people will have a slightly different take on that. Wherever you are, or whichever culture your family comes from, you might have different traditions or festivals that you want to celebrate, or you might just be making birthday cards. Birthday cards are always good. So obviously the festival that you're working towards will have an issue or a bearing on what kind of imagery you choose. And then there'll be, different takes on that. So you might choose, even within Christmas, you could go for a kind of a religious theme, or you could go for a kind of traditional but not religious theme, like Father Christmas or Christmas trees like I do, or you could choose something more seasonal, perhaps like holly and holly berries or something like that, or you could look at seasonal foods, festive foods. So there's lots of different ideas, and yeah, you can play around with what works for you. So yeah, have a think. What are your favourite kind of images for the festival that you're working on? Do pop that in the comments. It'd be nice to hear. As I said before, I tend to work always with the same theme, partly because that's what I like, but also because it's kind of a running joke almost for me that every year I do something with a tree and a star, and it gives me a kind of set of parameters to be creative within, and it helps me to kind of be inventive each year and think, you'd think after, I don't know what, 8 years I've been doing trees and stars probably, you'd think you'd have run out of combinations, but actually it just forces you to be more creative. That's the funny thing about creativity, is that the more constrained you make it, the more creative it is. So yeah, come up with a theme. And I'd love to hear what your theme might be. So the next thing to think about is what you can do. So what your existing skills are, what materials you've got, what tools you've got, whether you've got kids helping or not, how easy you want to make it. And then that kind of gives you the parameters for what your idea will be. And I'd suggest once you've got a kind of basic idea, you try it out, just do a quick sketch or something to see if it's going to work and if you need to make any adjustments. So yeah, so I've got here, a couple of very simple things. That these are ones that friends have sent me that their kids have done, so using kind of stickies, or a kind of more sophisticated version. So yeah, so it can be a whole family thing, and that can be nice if you're sending it to friends or family, that everybody's been involved. Right, so lots of talking here. I'm just going to have a sip of water. Okay, so on to the actual ideas for how you might make it. And I think the simplest thing possibly is collage. It doesn't need any special skills or equipment. You can use plain coloured papers, or you could prepare your papers in some way by printing or painting onto them. You could use old cards, cut them up and collage them back together in a new way. You could use fabric or yarn, all kinds of things. So I've got lots of collage examples for you that I can show you. So this one is not technically a Christmas card, but it just shows you. So that's it's a picture that's been taken, I think, from a magazine or something, and a little sticker. So it's really existing imagery. This is fabric and gold paint, quite abstract. This one has got a little window and then some decorative fabric in the window. And you could cut these windows yourself, but you can also buy card blanks with the windows in if you want to do something like that. This one is something a textile artist made, so it's a kind of landscape, but it gives you an idea that if you've got coloured yarn, you could use something like that again in a window. This one is so it's actually a two-coloured card. It's pink on the outside and yellow on the inside, and I've used that to cut a window through and then paint in that little window. And this one again is, I think, was done by a designer, so it's got a, I don't know if you can see, it's got a kind of koi carp design in so it's a 3-sheet card with a window and a koi carp, but you could cut something like that yourself and use tracing paper or anything like that that you wanted, or some sort of acetate in your window. So there's some collage ideas, and I'm flipping through them quite fast, but you can, as I say, I'll post the replay at the end, so you can always go back and pause the video if you want to see something in a bit more detail. Okay, the next technique that I thought I'd share with you, that's again quite simple. Ooh, it's all flying everywhere, excuse me. Dropping my examples on the floor, that's not a good start. Whoa, don't do it again. So, getting out of hand here already. So yeah, so using photographs or things that you can print on the computer. So that's quite a simple, it's a colour photograph stuck onto coloured paper. Another one that's the same idea. This was a birthday card. My friends know me, they know I like a disused factory. But yeah, so it's a small square format photograph stuck onto, again, coloured card, but just the square gives it a different kind of look. You could add, so she's printed, let's see if you can see, yeah, so it's a photograph of a church window, and she's printed the border and the text onto the backing paper, just so you get that kind of layering. And it's also got, oh, I don't know if you can see, yeah, some printed inside as well. You could take it a step further and say this is a drawing that's been done, excuse me, on an iPad or something, and then the digital drawing's been printed out and onto photograph paper, so it's quite, a high value glossy paper, and that's been stuck on the card. So you could spend some time doing a single drawing and then print lots of them. So it's quite a time investment for the first drawing, but each card then is quite easy to make. Other options, yeah, so using perhaps a scanner. This one it's kind of come off its original base. So it's a kind of collage with textured paper and little embellishments and thread to make the star, that's then been scanned and printed and stuck onto the card. Or this one is another scanned one. So this is one my mum did actually a few years ago, which I've kept. It's usually framed, but I took it out of the frame show. So this was, originally she had a photograph of these trees, which is in the park near my hometown. And I think she drew the trees on tracing paper, so put tracing paper over the photograph and drew out the trees and then scanned that and then was able to print it. And this is letter, writing paper, so it's not that robust. So that would be easily go through a domestic printer if you had one. So yeah, that's the second idea, using photography and printing. Oh, the sun's coming round. We'll see how that goes. Oh, talking so much. So let me know in the comments if any of those kind of techniques are appealing to you so far. Have you seen anything that you think you could do or that you like the idea of trying? And I'm going to show you some hand-printed cards now. So I think I mentioned already, I had one that was potato printed, and potato printing is super easy if you don't have any special equipment. You know, you just need a potato and a kitchen knife, and I do it with acrylic paint, if you've got that. So what have we got? So yeah, this is a very old, so that was done, I think that one was actually done with, you know, a kind of commercially available printing stamp block thing, and added to with wax crayon. So that's gold paint and then wax crayon on top. Yeah, this one somebody's spent a bit more time on. So that's, it looks like a lino print probably. So somebody's done some lino cutting and then used type. That's the same idea as one I did a few years ago. So that's again a lino block. And you could, I've also done that where you lino print onto your colour paper, and then you can cut that out and stick it onto the card if you want to use, you know, different layers of coloured papers. I've also got, yeah, another, I think probably a lino there, which is a black print on green card. So that's a different way around of getting that colour contrast if you've got those different colour paints or inks. And then the next one I was going to share with you is this one. So you might want to put some different text on it, but this is using, it's actually a block that my grandmother made, because my grandmother was a text, she did hand block printed textiles, and I inherited one of her blocks. This is it. So normally, you know, it sits on my dresser as a sort of family heirloom, but I did eventually realise that I could use it for printing. So she obviously used the block as a repeat to make a kind of grid of dots, but I've inked it. Ooh, can I get that on the pen? I'm watching myself backwards, so it's hard to see sometimes. Yeah, so you can see I've used the dots in a different way, so you can play with that. But you can obviously buy purpose-made or old, you know, printers blocks from lots of different cultures, or you can get new ones that have been made and you can use those. You can use them individually or layer them up together. So that's a sort of fun way of doing it. Yeah, right, so on to my last idea. And if you're not so comfortable with printing, you could also try stenciling if you've done that before. So this one, yeah, would be very easy to cut as a stencil. What I tend to use for stencils is old laminated notices. So the ones I've got, I actually got from a fireworks display years ago. I was in a park and they had lots of signs saying this way, this way, this way. And at the end of the event, you know, they were all just going to get thrown in the rubbish. So a friend and I went around and collected them all up. So I've got a big stack of those, which I've been using for years for stencils. And you can cut through them with a scalpel or a craft knife. And then acrylic ink, if you're careful, you can use for stenciling. And use either a special stenciling brush, you know, which has very stiff bristles and you dab downwards, or a sponge as well. If you don't get too much paint in it, will stencil very easily. And that's another simple way of getting repeats. Okay, so I've got one more idea. If you'd like to hear another idea, perhaps, yeah, let me know in the comments. I don't want to bombard you, but I want to kind of feed your imagination, so it's getting that balance right. Let me know in the comments if you'd like another sort of bonus idea. Yep, okay. So yeah, so the next thing I thought you could do would be, if you're thinking about how to develop ideas, is to use some poetry perhaps. So I've got a couple of examples that you can see. This one has, I don't know if you can see, it has poetry kind of, it is a hand-drawn card, but you could use a similar idea. It's got letter poetry all the way around. So you could choose a carol or a song or a poem that has sort of communicates something that you like about the festival or the season, and that can help you to sort of pull out ideas of imagery or perhaps details that you want to put into your design. So that's a good way. You can also, if you're doing computer printing, if your card's not too heavy, you can add the actual text inside. So, ooh, can you see that? Yeah, just about perhaps. So the actual poem is printed inside the card here, and then on the other side it says season's greetings. So yeah, and that's another one. That's a sort of another hand drawn and then scanned and computer printed. So that's, I think, the main techniques that you could use quite easily at home with, you know, what many of us might have or be able to access quite straightforwardly, and that don't take, you know, really specialist skills or experience or years of practice. But I think, you know, there'll be something in there that you could play with and choose. But I suppose I wanted to talk a little bit as well about some of the kind of extra ideas that you could use. So I showed you the kids ones, which was like 100% embellishments, all stick-ons. But you can add, you know, this one again has got kind of almost holographic kind of sequin things, and you can buy, you know, these, I think they're sold more as kind of confetti for weddings or big parties, but you can use those and stick them on. This one's got a dried leaf, so yeah, you could think of lots of different things. Perhaps, you know, if you've got an idea, do pop it in the comments and share, you know, an idea of what you think you could use to embellish. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of what I thought I would talk to you about today, but if you've got any questions, anything that I haven't touched on that you'd really like answered, do pop it in the comments and I will make sure that I do that. I'm doing this live from the Get More Creative with Jane Saar page, so if you're watching on the page, I will see your comments now and I can answer in the video. If you're watching in the group, Get More Creative group, then I will check the comments afterwards and get back to you in text, but I will answer your questions wherever you put them. So do, yeah, drop a question in. If there's anything that you're not quite sure about or you want a bit more in detail on, do let me know. Right, while you're thinking about your questions, if you've got any, I wanted to talk to you as well about sort of final touches. So yeah, it's nice to think about what goes inside the card. Oh, great, thanks, Anne. Yeah, so it's nice to think about what goes inside the card as well. And this has sort of two layers. One, it kind of raises your design values, if you like, but it also makes life easier for you when it comes to actually writing in the cards, which is the bit that catches me out because it always takes longer than I think it will. So very simple one might be, this is just written with wax crayon in colours, so just to kind of make it more bright and colourful. You can buy, I don't know if you can see this, this is a gold marker pen that you can write with if you just want to write them all out. I would say the gold markers don't last very long, so you won't finish one in a year, but by next year it will have dried up. So that's something to bear in mind. You can also get like a pencil, the metallic pencils. I've got a silver one. So if you've got a dark coloured card, you can use a metallic pencil and handwrite your messages if you want to. You can also, I don't have an example, I seem to have posted them all out, but I've got these sort of blocks of type. So it's a little wooden block and the letters on one end, if you can see, and then on the other end it's a rubber stamp basically. So you can use all of those together to write out whatever, you know, stamp out whatever you want to do, and it's quite quick to do, you know, a repeat of the word across all of your cards if you've got an ink block. And often you can buy a set of those and they'll have an ink block with them, so that, you know, it's a quite straightforward thing to use, and it's a little investment, but you'll keep them, you know, you'll keep coming back to them every year, so it can be a nice way to kind of build up your collection of materials over time. And that's something I will often do actually. It's kind of each year you buy a little extra something so that, you know, you've got something new to play with. And yeah, another embellishment that you could do if you're looking at it is the envelope. So this one has got gold tissue paper stars cut out and stuck down. It's quite, you know, kind of rough and ready, and there's also some little hand-drawn stars there. So you could kind of make the envelope special as well. Maybe, you know, for people you particularly like. You don't necessarily want to do that to everybody. So yeah, any questions about anything so far? I think one question that I kind of did want to answer was to say, well, you know, I've given you lots of options here, shown you lots of different examples. And perhaps the kind of starting question is, what's the easiest, if you like? And one thing that you could do with very little outlay, if you don't have all the art materials to hand, would be perhaps using some coloured sugar paper or something. That's often in the kids' scrapbooks, so that you can buy that very cheaply in colours, and do a double folded card. And what I have done in the past is used cookie cutters. So yeah, this is a Christmas tree cookie cutter, and PVA glue, you know, that's that white glue that peels off your skin. So we used to put it on our hands when we were kids and then spend hours peeling it off like fake scars. Anyway, that's a distraction. So yeah, you can put the glue on a plate and dab the cookie cutter or whatever into the glue, and then print the glue onto the card. So that will give you a kind of tree outline and then a bit of glitter. It's good fun. So that's a kind of super easy option if you want one final one. Okay, so it looks like everybody's happy. I'm not seeing any questions coming through specifically, but yeah, if you've got a couple of minutes left, if anything is coming to mind. And I've got a sort of bonus idea for you. Would be to think about, you know, while you've got all your materials are out, or you're testing things, or you've got some that don't quite work, or you make too many, or whatever it is, you could also make tags. So you could use, you know, if you've made a card with a fold, you could just use just the front and with the same print and punch a hole in that and use that as a gift tag. Or you could use the whole thing as a tag if you wanted to. You could also cut up the cards or use the trimmings. So here's another example of one I did. So it's a longer piece of like a heavier card, and then I've stuck on it. It was a little offcut from some other project. Hole with a hole punch, and then you've got a gift tag, which looks nice and, you know, doesn't cost you anything really. You can also, if you're printing, you can use the same stamps and print onto paper if you want to do your own gift wrap. So you can print onto something like a tissue paper or a craft paper, or, you know, a coloured paper on a roll, whatever you like really. But yeah, so you can do the sort of the whole gift package as well if you want to. Great. So I'm running over slightly, but yeah, I wanted to say thank you for joining me today. It's been great to have you here. I hope you've got some ideas out of this and you're going away kind of armed with what you kind of plan to do. So yeah, thank you for joining me. I think the most important thing here is allowing yourself some just time to kind of play creatively and enjoy it. Yeah. And do share a picture of your cards either on the page or in the group. You know, I'd love to see what you do end up making. And enjoy sending your cards. So, yeah, get more creative. We'll be winding down a little bit now into the Christmas season while everybody's busy with their other projects. But there's more coming in the new year, so I hope you'll stick around for that. So yeah, in January, I'm hoping to do a sort of free 5-day mini course. And it would be lovely to hear from you if there's a particular sort of topic or question that you're most wanting to get answered, so that I can make sure it's targeted to you. I do have some ideas, so perhaps if you're still with me live, I could just run through some of those ideas very quickly, and you can just very quickly drop me an answer. Yeah, so if I give you the 4 ideas that I thought of so far for the mini course, would be A, 5 steps to success as an artist. So if you like the sound of that, just put an A in the comments. B, the artist mindset. C, the Am I Really an Artist checklist. Or D, the #1 secret to starting your art. So that's A, 5 steps to success as an artist. B, artist mindset. C, Am I Really an Artist checklist. And D, the #1 secret to starting your art. So if any of those sound particularly appealing, do let me know in the comments, and you could be shaping the next big activity that will be coming up in Get More Creative in the group in the new year. If you haven't joined the group yet, I know some of you have come to us new, and we're obviously on the page now so that this is accessible as possible for everyone. The group is open to all. You're very welcome there, and I will be sharing sort of tips and ideas and insights and kind of background on the artist's process, the creative process, and how you can use that with your art. And also, those of you that work with me, you'll know I'm very keen on the kind of mindset stuff that helps you to make art that really expresses who you are and to develop your own practice in a sustainable way. So I talk about that as well in the group. So if you haven't joined the group, do follow the link from the page and join us there. Okay, great. So thank you very much for being with me today. I think that's pretty much everything I was going to cover. I've run over a little bit longer than planned, but great. So Linda says D is sounding good because she's a bit stuck for motivation. Cool. So D was the secret to starting your art. That's a good one to start with, isn't it? Thanks, Linda. Yeah. So any final questions? I suppose you should say there's no such thing as a silly question. So if there's something, you know, however big or small, that's kind of niggling at you that might stop you from taking action, and if I can help you with it, then yeah, that's what I'm here for. So do pipe up now. I'm just going to have a sip of water because I've been doing a lot of talking. No, looks like everybody's happy, kind of percolating ideas. So yeah, do your survey of what you've got. Think about the format of the papers that you've got. Think about your envelopes, your theme, what kind of material, theme or imagery you like, and then the materials you've got available, the skills you've got, and the techniques that you've got, and perhaps, yeah, you can always go back through the replay and see if there's any particular examples that you liked that you can kind of make a little riff on, because that's another way that creativity works, is to take an example that you've seen before and then perhaps say, oh, I like this from this one and that from that one, and I can combine them together and give it a little twist that makes it my own. So that can be a great way to work. And obviously, you know, something like a Christmas card is a very traditional format that repeats every year, so it's totally cool to kind of use ideas that you've seen in other places. Great. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me live, and it's been great to have you here. Thank you for the comments in the chat. It's always nice to hear from you. Do enjoy making your cards and share those with us. And as I say, stick around with Get More Creative for more coming in the new year, and some little, you know, bits and pieces in between then as well. Okay, see you soon. Bye for now. Take care.